Story 1 by Jaydenkiper. So to start off, the people of my story are myself, who I'll abbreviate as J, 17, male, my current and first boyfriend, whom the story is about, Connor, 17, male, and some others like my mom and my dad and some friends. It all began last year in my grade 11 chemistry class. I know, how ironic, lol, chemistry, had just started. I didn't know anyone very well in my class, however, one person stood out. He was about my height of 6 feet, wore a bright red hoodie and sweatpants, and he had a masculine yet cute, handsome appearance. A couple classes/days went by, and it also became clear due to how quickly he answered the teacher's questions, etc. This guy was also great at the subject and had a genuine interest in it beyond grades, and was crazy smart too. About 2 weeks or so, I started getting a pretty big crush on him, and I didn't even talk to him that much, yet. This was literally the first time I ever liked a dude before. I knew it was gay or bi, but not quite sure yet at the time, and I only had a couple crushes on girls before though. I always preferred guys on a physical level more. Regardless, this was a huge moment for me. I knew statistically the chances of being able to form anything romantic with Connor were low since he was straight looking, had typical high school friends, etc. But I decided I would at least try befriending him. So one day I asked if we could hang out at lunch and he agreed. So far, things were turning out. We ate lunch and chatted about all manner of things, from random science topics to which games and shows we liked. Facts about ourselves, such as he was fluent in French, Canada. After a couple of days of getting along, I asked if he had a Discord so we could talk after school and play some games. After some weeks, we started getting closer and closer, and he would often help me with my chemistry, and I would help him with his social studies, and we would share personal stories about us and more. One day, I decided that I would somewhat bluntly, though as politely as I could, ask over Discord something like, "You don't have to answer if you are uncomfortable with me asking, but by chance are you bi, gay, or anything in between?" He actually said, "Yeah, I'm bi." And when I said that I also was into guys as well, he was elated. It was the first time he met someone who wasn't completely straight, and I couldn't believe my luck. Almost every day we would meet at school and video call to play games or just hang out. A month later, so about 2 months from the beginning of the semester, we basically just fell in place and were together without either asking the other out. It just kind of worked. Not long after that, he told me that he loved me, and I almost melted before responding with the classic "I love you too." That moment made me feel things I haven't before, with a mix of butterflies and euphoria. I told my mom and dad about it, and they were completely supportive, which was awesome, though my mom did say that high school relationships, regardless of who is in them, are fragile, and that love, at first, can be an infatuation instead, so to be careful as to not get heartbroken. Her advice seemed wise, but Connor and I, to my perspective, was legitimate. After the initial confession of love on both sides, we shared our phone numbers and put a date November 3rd down as the founding of our relationship. My school also has a large stage with black rooms for the drama class, which I was a part of, which we ate lunch at and gave us the opportunity for our first kiss. It felt honestly kind of strange in a way, but also truly connecting with him, and the more I thought about it after, the more I enjoyed it. The second time around, one of my friends, despite being straight, even told us right there how to do it properly. Which was pretty funny though, his tips did work, lol. Since then, we have enjoyed 2 Christmases together, where we both got some fun stuff for each other. Both our birthdays, we went on dates to the mall, Starbucks, and his dad works at the zoo, and Connor worked at the science center over the summer, so we got to go to both places for free. To prove my mom wrong, at least somewhat, I still love him the same after 14 months and counting. He was nothing but loving, caring, never mean. Somehow we managed to avoid most of the high school relationship drama stuff, and I hope one day something comes of this and perhaps we can do more beyond our schooling together. There are some troubles, such as he has homophobic parents who he isn't out to, and that most of his friends are also homophobic, which pushed him into his shell, where he isn't comfortable with who he is or when we are together around other people, except for my friends, cause they're awesome. But I think with some patience, these things will work out, and so far, he is one of the best and most intelligent people I have ever met, and every moment I get to hold his hand is a moment I will always cherish. Story 2 by teetyler. When I was 11 years old, I met Matt. I had been in baseball and was excited for the new season. As soon as I got into the field, I went to say hi to all of my friends, and the next person on the list was my friend Paedyn. When I got to who I thought my friend Paedyn was, I casually said hi. This poor kid turned around and says, "Huh?" I suddenly knew that it wasn't Paedyn. Instead, it was a kid named Matt. He was 12 years old, tall, very thin, and kinda cute. I quickly apologized and practice went on. As the season went on, I had gotten to know him and started falling for him. Fast forward to the end of the season and our last game. After the game, Matt asked to talk to me. He told me that he loved me. I told him that I felt the same way, but we were still a little young. He understood and his dad called for him. Before he left, I kissed his cheek and ran home. 4 years later, I had turned 15. We had kept in touch over the years. The day was December 17th. I asked him if he wanted to meet at a local park, and he agreed. We had a picnic that afternoon. While eating, he said that he never stopped loving me. He then pulled me in and kissed me. Shocked, I kissed him back. We decided that we would start dating. Our relationship progressed after months. The day of our 1-year anniversary came around. He took me out for a nice dinner and a movie at home. After the movie, we walked upstairs to my room. We started to kiss. One thing led to another and we started making out. Clothes fell and I won't go into detail. 2 weeks later, I found out that he cheated on me. We ended up breaking up. I instantly fell into depression. I was heartbroken, but deep down I still loved him. I missed him. I decided to resort to suicide. I took an old bottle of pills and took them. My whole life flashed before my eyes. I thought of my family, my friends, and spat the pills out and decided to live my life. A few months later, I was invited to a baseball reunion. Of course, he was there. While we were there, we ended up playing Truth or Dare. I was dared to go in the closet with Matt. We ended up talking for a little. I told him how heartbroken I was when he cheated and how much I still loved him. I saw a sparkle in his eyes. He said shakily that he regretted it every day. He then leaned in again and kissed me. I kissed him back. I had missed this. We had a great dating life. Then, when I was 21, my grandparents hosted a pool party and told me to invite my friends and family from Matt's side. We got there and I saw all my old friends. Matt threw me into a pool and we swam for a while. We then got out to take a picture and jump into the pool. When everyone else jumped, me and Matt didn't jump, and my cousin gasped. I confused and turned to my left. There he was, on one knee, holding the most magnificent ring. He told me that he loved me more than anything in the world. He asked me, "Will you marry me?" Tears flowed down my face and I said yes. We had a great wedding and later bought a house. When I was 23, we got a surrogate. We got a beautiful baby girl who we named Vanessa. The next year, we adopted a 6-month-old boy who we named Brett. They are the greatest kids I could ever ask for. I love them. A few days ago, we went to my husband's friend's barbecue. His friend told me that he was glad that we got back together. He said that Matt hung himself, but his friend caught him right before he would have died. I was shocked. He did it because he felt guilty for cheating on me. Matt and I talked about it. We now live in the same house with our 2 kids and 2 German Shepherds. I have a good life. I love my life. Story 3 by Paedyn Sellars. So it was around August 15, 2018. I wanted a fresh start, so I moved to a new area. It had only been a few days after I had just moved in when my neighbor introduced himself. He told me his name was Jordan, not his actual name, and he was just the most respectful and polite person you could ever meet. He smiled at me as he held out his hand. I kindly took it and introduced myself. I said my name was Paedyn, not my actual name, and he said that he lived next door. After that day, I didn't quite know what the spark was, but it was phenomenal. I spent days just thinking about the warm smile of his. Over 2 months after I had moved into the new neighborhood, he invited me to a friend gathering / barbecue at his house. It was on a Friday night, so I decided what the heck. When I got there, he was very talkative and he was basically the social butterfly of the entire group he had invited, including me. He had introduced me to his friends and a few cousins he had invited, and I could not help but notice the entire time at the gathering he was following every motion I did. If I got up to get a beer, so did he. So when I said I had to leave, he told me that I should stay a bit longer, so I decided to linger around until most of the group left. He told me about how his father and mother were very kind people, and they ran a business together in California, and they were pretty successful. I didn't have much to say besides my mom died and my dad was very strict as I was a child. We talked for hours, which is a very cliche line, but it just seemed so unrealistic. It felt like something fictional or out of a movie, so finally when I looked at the time and noticed it was 3 a.m., I decided I should head out. He nodded and walked me out the door. We said our goodbyes and I went on my way. The next day I was out walking my dog around and Jordan comes out of his house and asks if he could walk with me. It was a pretty cold day and he had only a sweater. I asked him how he wasn't cold. He just said he had extreme tolerance to cold. I laughed and nodded my head at that. We got back to my house after only 15 or 20 minutes. And again, we said our goodbyes. But first, he asked me for my number and when we could have a gathering again. I told him we could have one probably next week since I had to go to a funeral that weekend. And he agreed. Then we went our separate ways. That following week, we met up at a local Mexican restaurant with 3 of his friends and we sat down. He sat across from me and the entire time it felt like he was admiring me. We just stared at each other until one of his friends pointed out that our food was there. After we were done eating, Jordan asked me if I could come with him to his house. I said okay, and we drove to his house. When we got inside, we sat in his living room and we talked like we have. Then we stared at each other again. Then he leaned in and kissed me. I was shocked, but it felt right to kiss him, so I kissed him back. We kissed for a long time and then broke apart, and just admired each other as we've been. To this day we are dating. We have been dating now officially for 2 years, so thank you. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.